Big fan of yours. Thank you so much, sir. I have recently enrolled in a PhD program as a junior research fellow, and I'm keen to pursue my research in geopolitics or geostrategy. Could you kindly suggest some relevant and contemporary topics of research areas? Well, geopolitics, geostrategy, there's so many topics you can pick. So, for example, India faces a dilemma. Okay, the dilemma is, should we focus on the maritime domain or the continental domain? We face threats on both areas, the continental domain and the maritime domain. So, for example, we have major continental threats, mainly China, but also Pakistan, right? We even have East Pakistan now. We even have the whole cookie disaster in Manipur. So much. So we have all these continental threats. Mainly, if you want to distill down the continental threats into two, it's LAC plus LOC. So that's our continental threats. We also have major emerging vulnerabilities in the Indian Ocean region. You know, the Chinese encroachment into the Indian Ocean region, and the Pakistani involvement. The Pakistanis getting submarines and so on and so forth, right? So the problem of China, the problem of Pakistan. So we have maritime vulnerabilities. We have continental vulnerabilities. So one good research topic is to study how India allocates resources and attention between these two major continental threats. That's a great, I would say, research topic in geopolitics, geostrategy. Now, since we are discussing AI so much with the AI summit and all, maybe another topic could be AI in cyberspace. You know, is AI and is cyberspace India's what role does it play as India's strategic force multiplier? So you can examine how the convergence of these domains, AI, cyberspace, cyber warfare, and even space capabilities in AI, capabilities in cyberspace, capabilities in space. How do how do these domains and the convergence of these domains? How does that reshape India's, or how does it how is it in the process of shaping India's grand strategy? How does it shape India's tools of statecraft? How does it shape India's deterrence? How does it shape the way the India's coercive capabilities, India's influence in the geopolitical domain, right? Does digital capability allow India to leapfrog its traditional power constraints? How coherent is India's institutional architecture for multi-domain operations across these domains and so on? That's a really interesting topic. Then an evergreen topic is India's policy shift from non-alignment to multi-alignment. Right now, India is not non-aligned; India is multi-aligned. Right? Uh, India is a multi-aligned nation. India seeks to be friends with everybody and engage constructively in various spheres of activities with every possible nation. That's called multi-alignment, not non-alignment. A lot of commentators still say that India is non-aligned. India is not non-aligned. India is multi-alignment. So you could examine India's policy shift. How did it happen? Why did it happen? From non-alignment to multi-alignment. Is multi-alignment a stable long-term strategy that is viable for India, or is it simply a transitional posture that India currently has adopted, but is not going to be viable long-term? And under which pressure points does India's multi-alignment strategy possibly break? Is it sanctions imposed by, in the context of the Russia-Ukraine war, the pressure imposed by the US on India? Does China come come as a factor into this? So, under what pressure points could India's multi-alignment possibility strategy or posture possibly break? And how would you study this? You could study voting patterns in the United Nations. You could study various metrics in energy, in trade, in defense, right? You could look into case studies on the Russia-Ukraine war and its effect, its first, second, third order effects on India. You could look at what's happening in the Indo-Pacific, in the Middle East crisis, and what kind of effect it has on India, and so on. So India's shift from non-alignment to multi-alignment, and how viable is this as a long-term strategy, and what are the pressure points that could potentially make it break? Right? There's so many more. India's domestic political economy, and how does it relate to India's external strategic posture. So India needs growth domestically, growth imperatives for India, right? India needs growth domestically. India does all this welfare politics, Ladli Behna Yojana and whatever else Yojanas, right? India has various business lobbies that are very invested in India's growth, and you know that sort of thing, and they impose constraints on the kind of growth that India can have. So, how do all these things constrain or enable India's geopolitical posture, and are they conducive to bold geopolitical moves, or do they constrain India from making bold geopolitical moves? Um, we have this narrative of Vishwaguru in India that's very popular among politicians. So, and there are people like me who speak about civilizational state, and now that's becoming kind of a big thing. A lot of people say that India is a civilizational state as opposed to a nation state, right? So, how do these narratives of Vishwaguru and civilizational state and so on, how do they concretely alter policy in India and so on? So, there's a lot of fertile ground when it comes to topics for a PhD program. My advice for a PhD topic is, don't take something that's overly complex. Take something that is substantial, significant, something that will give genuinely new research, new material, um, original research possibilities, obviously, but make sure it's not too complex that it'll get you bogged down for like too long. All right. All the best, Alex Klebent.